screen?
Yes, I can. Brilliant.
Fabulous. So hi everyone, and welcome to our first Tech Talk of 2023. There's lots happened since our last Tech Talk, so lots to get through. Thank you for joining us. I'm joined by, hi Emmanuel, just in time, our developer relations engineer, Emmanuel, who is going to be talking through some of the updates that we've had this year so far. So over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Emmanuel. I'm a developer relations engineer, like Ellis said, on the Aventus Network here. So the last one, AVN Tech Talk we did, I believe was sometime in October or maybe even September, if I'm not mistaken, but I know it was definitely before we became a parachain, right? And a lot has happened since then. There's been a lot of tech improvements, a lot of tech changes. Becoming a parachain itself was a huge deal for us. A lot of learning curves, a lot of improvements. The AVN is definitely bigger, better, and stronger since then. So I'm going to run you through some new features that we have on the chain. I'm going to run you through some new tools we have in our ecosystem, some new dApps, tell you about some really interesting features that we've added to the Aventus Network. For example, some split fee, an improvement to our gateway there, run you through some ecosystem changes on that side as well. For example, where we are now, where you can access us now, some other new platforms. So this is the structure. Firstly, we'll run through the dApps, then we'll go through the gateway, then to the ecosystem stuff. Then we have the AVM mainnet and testnet being on Polkadot.js. That's part of the ecosystem stuff. There's a brief part here. We talk about the blockchain explorer expansion there, and then some open source pallets. So next slide, please.
Sure, lots to get through, Emmanuel, very exciting. So let's start with dApps.
Yes, dApps, thank you. So one of the biggest dApps that we've released so far is our staking dApp. Now, comparing the staking where it is now to where staking was back in 2021 when the chain initially launched, there's a huge gap from there, because back then in 2021 we had staking, and that was done on the Ethereum side of it with smart contracts being done there, and we had this really cool UI where it showed you the 10 validators and the pots where you could put in a total of 250,000 AVT on each validator, and you could see how people were staking on each validator and how that got filled up very quickly. You could see that there we had that cool UI, but then but the limitation with that was, once you put your AVT in there, that was locked for like a duration of time, which was very long. And to be rewarded, you had to wait until the cycle was over. So in 2022, once that staking period was done, we had AVN, we had staking now native on the AVN chain, right? Because then we had the whole nominated proof of stake, you had staking now native on the chain, you had people staking, and the real benefit to stakers was the fact that you could nominate a particular validator. You could then go forward as well as doing getting your rewards daily, seeing your rewards increment on your balance daily, seeing that per error. You could then unlock your stake after 7 days, which was far more flexible than what it was before, and there was a lot of advantages, and we were seeing this coming in as this was an improvement to how staking was done on the chain. Moving on from there, when we became a parachain, one thing that immediately became clear to us was staking is not something that's native to parachains, right? Because of the way it's done on the Polkadot ecosystem. Because when you're talking about staking, you're basically nominating validators. But then because when you move to being a parachain, you no longer have validators, you have collators. And the big difference here is that validators are native to the Polkadot relay chain themselves, and they handle the block finalization part of it, while collators handle the producing part of it, going through the transactions there and then passing those transactions and the verification there to the validators. So introducing staking was then very interesting for us, and how you then move away from this concept of staking on validators to staking on collators, and walking through that was interesting. Well, a bit of a learning curve for us. So some people experienced there was a period where you could not unstake, where your funds were locked, but coming to this year, where we had broken through that and we had come up with our own custom fuel for this, we now had staking done native on the chain and staking as a parachain, which is something that is very unique and very, very separate for us, you know. So that was a big thing for us there. Now, we now have people staking on the AVN as a parachain. And then to further enhance this, we now have staking as using a dApp, right? We have this, like I said, the staking dApp is one of our biggest dApps so far because it incorporates a lot. It incorporates the staking, the unstaking, the withdrawal process of your staked AVT. So to walk you briefly through the process here, you're staking AVT, and you, as a first-time staker, you're staking 100 AVT minimum, right? Every chain has their minimum process, and we'll go through that later. But on the Aventus blockchain, you're staking 100 AVT as your minimum here as a first-time staker. As a returning staker, you can stake any amount, and that's fine. But then you also have the process of unstaking your AVT. And when you submit an extrinsic to unstake your AVT, that then goes into a 7-day unbonding period. And after that point, you're not able to withdraw that AVT because that AVT has moved from your staking balance onto your unlocked balance on your account. And you have this entire process flow on a dApp, which is pretty cool to see. So you can see this on the staking dApp. And if you go to the balance tab on the staking dApp, there's a breakdown of this there. So you can see this there. If I was on my laptop, I would have shown you the staking dApp and show you all the cool features of it. But I would encourage you to check out our staking dApp if you haven't. It's staking.mainnet.aventus.io. It's a really interesting dApp for you to check out there. Now, moving forward, please, to the next slide.
Sure.
Is our lowering. So lowering on the Aventus network here. Now, to say initially that, as many of you know, that we have a bridge to the Ethereum blockchain, and what this allows us to do is to lift tokens from Ethereum to Aventus. People who want to take advantage of the incredibly low fees or the fast transaction processing speed on the Aventus network take advantage of this by lifting their tokens to the Aventus network from Ethereum. Now, to facilitate this process and make it smooth, what we did was then to put out a dApp that allowed you to do this process. Now, to say this is, this process can be done manually via the smart contracts that already exist on the Ethereum network using our AVN smart contracts. And you can find these smart contracts by going on our gateway documentation, going down to the queries section. You see a folder called contracts, and then you can get the addresses from there. You can pull that from the gateway and it'll tell you the latest address for any of the contracts that are currently in use. Now you can go on the smart contracts there and you can go to the lifting section there and you can see all that's required. But we found again that, you know, not everyone's able to understand contracts, not everyone's able to understand the gimmicky aspects of it. So we created a dApp that allowed it to be smooth. Now, there are various components that allow this process smooth. For example, once you put in the address, your AVN address of where you want that lift to, that tokens you're lifting to go to on the AVN, then that transaction goes through on the Ethereum blockchain, an event gets emitted on Ethereum. Then we have this concept of an entity we call a lift sweeper on the AVN, and the lift sweeper listens out for this specific type of Ethereum events on the Ethereum blockchain. It then picks up your lift event that's gone through successfully. A number of checks are run on that to make sure it's valid, to make sure that you're the owner of that token, and then that token gets created on the Aventus blockchain there. So really interesting process flow. If you're not familiar with that process already, I believe it's detailed in our white paper, but that's a process flow there, or how a lift actually happens there. It takes about 20 minutes for that process to go through there. Now, once the token is on the AVN, then the next question was, after you've taken advantage of all the great things the AVN has to offer, what if you wanted to move some tokens back to Ethereum? What if you need to do that? Then we also have the lowering, which is also available on the Ethereum smart contract there. But again, we wanted to provide an easy way for you to be able to lower your tokens and get whatever details was required there. So we created the lowering dApp. Now, the lowering dApp comes as a package where it has a two-step process. The first step is an extrinsic saying that you're requesting to lower a certain amount of tokens to a specified Ethereum address. And once that's done, about 24 hours later, it says you can then proceed with step 2, which is then claiming those those tokens into that particular recipient address on Ethereum there. So now these two dApps, the lifting and lowering dApp, work very differently. The lifting, for example, uses the Ethereum wallet because it's an Ethereum-based transaction process there. However, the lowering dApp uses Polkadot wallet there, and the lowering dApp is based on our gateway, AVN gateway, which is a very, very powerful gateway on its own, gateway API, which we're going to delve into next. So could you take us to the next slide, please?
Sure. Before I do, I can see that we have already a couple of questions about staking dApp, which is amazing. Just wanted to remind everyone, if you do have questions as Emmanuel is talking, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Pop your questions in there. We'll get to them at the end. Next slide.
Okay, so we're keeping the questions to the end. Okay. Great.
Yeah, if that's okay.
That's fine. That's fine. So now to the AVN gateway, could you go to the next slide, please?
Sure.
So with the AVN gateway, as many of you know who have been following us for some time now, we have the AVN gateway, and what it does basically is it allows you to access the AVN blockchain in profound ways, as in the speed of transactions are simply mind-blowing. And now we've basically given you access to the blockchain in a specific new way. When you approach a blockchain, initially all transactions need to be paid for on the blockchain, but the way most blockchains work is that you pay for the transactions as you execute the transactions. However, because we initially tailored to enterprises, we have an enterprise suite and enterprise-grade tools. We did come across a use case where it was needed, where certain users would need to do transactions, but another user would need to pay for those transactions, right? I'm sure some of you could possibly think of use cases in your businesses where that's also useful, where customers execute transactions, but you would want a designated payer to pay for those transactions to relieve them of thinking about the cost of certain transactions. So we came up with this concept on the gateway called the split fee. Now, what the split fee allows you to do is exactly what I just said. It allows person A to do a transaction while person B pays for the transaction, right? And this is a concept that is on our gateway. It's not a concept that we've seen out there much, but it's a concept that's very interesting there. Now, if you want to read more about the split fee, I will say that you should check out our AVN gateway documentation. It details this out, basically laying out for you how to do this as a payer, how to register your users, how to do this as a user. Now, if you're approaching this from a code perspective, how does this impact my code? I want to implement this split fee. How does this impact my code? All this is the introduction of a new flag as part of your AWT generation there in your code. And what this is you're just saying, as payer, that's the flag, and you're putting that as true. If you're doing this for your users, all this is basically saying is this user has a designated payer, and once this transaction gets to the gateway should basically understand this and say, get the payment for this transaction from this user, from this designated payer, and allow this user to do this. Now, to provide additional flexibility here for payers, what we've done is allow payers to have the ability to decide which transactions that they want to pay for. So, for example, if you only wanted to pay for the NFT transactions of a particular user, you could do that. If you only wanted to pay for the staking transactions of a user, you could do that. If you only wanted to pay for the token transactions of a user, you could do that, as opposed to the whole suite of transactions that are possible on the AVN, and there are a lot, right? So you could do that there. So with that, we give a lot of flexibility for payers to be able to manage the types of transactions they are paying for. We also have, to support payers in this process, we also have an admin gateway UI where payers are able to log in, view their public key, view a list of all the users that they are currently paying for, and register new users using the UI. We also have a Swagger documentation version of this where payers who want to do this via code could simply just take that and do it instead. So we have both ways there for split fee payers to do this there. Now, as part of this process, we also increase the capacity of the gateway when supporting thousands of concurrent transactions there, because this was so important. When you then come into this space where you have thousands of users doing the transactions, but you have one or two designated payers doing this, you then begin to think differently about how people approach the blockchain and send transactions and this. And that was the point where we came to, and there was needed increased capacity given the amount of new users and the amount of new clients using the gateway. So we spent a bit of time doing that and increasing the gateway, and we've seen tremendous results, increased speed, increased capacity. It's just fantastic on that side. Next slide, please. So diving into the ecosystem here. And like I said, becoming a parachain was very key for us, and we spent some time doing that late last year. And now that we did that, it was then increasing our presence everywhere. And one of the key places people, AVN users were talking to us about was the Polkadot.js UI. So it was a very key platform for us to be on. Now, Polkadot.js UI provides you more of a portal into a particular substrate chain. And a lot of parachains are on there, so it was very key for us to be on there as well. And we are now on Polkadot.js UI. That is absolutely fantastic, because you can go on Polkadot.js UI, you can go to the mainnet, you can go to Rococo testnet, and you see Aventus Network there. You can click that and have a portal into the Aventus Network. You would see all the blocks as they are being produced. You will see the block generation time. You can click into blocks and see the details of the extrinsics in there, as detailed as you want to get. All that information is in there. You could see the So could you go to the next slide, please? You would be able to see the chain state of the chain on there, and you'd be able to see view information about the extrinsics on there. You'd be able to see events as they are coming in to the chain in real time there. So this is really key for those who really want to get into the Aventus blockchain, really see what's happening, understand what's happening, how the blocks are coming in, how they're being generated, the collators. That was very fantastic for us, and also giving us that presence in the ecosystem as well there. Now, with that, you can also do one thing you could also do there, not just viewing, but also doing transactions on the Polkadot.js UI, is you can do AVT transactions on the Polkadot.js UI, send AVT from one account to another account there. That's also possible there. Next slide, please. Now, we also have a presence on Nova Wallet. Again, another one that's key for us is going on there. You will see the Aventus. You see ABT on Nova Wallet, and again, you'll be able to view your balance. As many of you know, we are on Sesame Wallet. Now you can see us on Nova Wallet as well. You'll be able to view your balance, do ABT transactions there on Nova Wallet, and this is natively supported via the RPC connection to the blockchain there. Next slide, please. Okay, so to the open source bit here. Now, it has been a goal of ours to open source the AVN, and we've done this gradually as we progress. I believe at the point of the last AVN Tech Talk, I believe it was just 2 pallets that were open at the time, which was the token manager and the NFT manager. Since then, we've open sourced a lot more pallets, and you can view this publicly on our GitHub, right? As of today, I'm even hearing some exciting news about us opening up the possibility for external developers to take our repo as a template and build a node based on Aventus Tech, which is also very interesting for external developers out there, being able to build this without even speaking to us or needing any intervention from us, which is also interesting there. So I will say on the open source journey, we are doing great on that front. So now, just to recap most of the things that you already know and love about the Aventus Network, which is we are enterprise grade, we are interoperable, we are sustainable, and we are efficient. And we reverb these things not just as a marketing thing, but because the entire tech is built around these basic 4 concepts. The fact that we are enterprise grade and we are interoperable with multiple chains, and we are sustainable and efficient. The entire tech is built around maintaining and fostering this 4 pillars here. Next slide, please. Great. So the user and developer experience, I've spoken a lot today about the AVN Gateway API. I will say to check that out. Most of the dApps that we have are built on the Gateway API. We trust it. So we build dApps and the clients build on the AVN Gateway API as well. It has the really cool features like I've spoken about today, for example, the split fee in there as well. So that is also something to also look at. So check out our Gateway API. The Gateway documentation is in this document. I believe Ellie could also drop that up for anyone who wants that. Sorry to throw you on the spot there, Ellie. But yeah, then you have the wallet. Like I said, that's also part of the ecosystem, given that we have presence on Polkadot.js, Ngubo wallet system and wallet. You can access us through these various means there. And then we have the Block Explorer. And to talk about the expansion that we've done on our Block Explorer there is to allow for greater flexibility in how the Block Explorer plays with other tools within the Aventus ecosystem, in terms of exposure and the granularity of data that's been able to be drawn in and extracted from the Block Explorer itself. So that was a great feature for us on that front there. And the last slide, please. Okay, great. All the links are available here. You can see
I'll share these links. If you registered for the webinar, I'll share these links to all the emails that registered to this webinar at the end.
Thank you. Thank you. And finally, just to conclude here is based on the client work that we've been doing in this period. So as many of you know, we have CBA, we have PreLab, and so many other clients. One key feature one here is what we've also done with the Energy Web. And again, we have a white paper coming out soon. You will be able to read more about the interesting work that we've done there. But we've also helped them. Energy Web is looking to integrate into the Polkadot ecosystem, and they've looked at our tech and they trust our tech to be able to build on this and do this. So that's something that we've also been doing in this period as well, making our tech available to them and getting them into the Polkadot ecosystem. Thank you very much. I will take your questions now.
Cool. So we actually have two questions for you, Emmanuel, both about staking. The first one is why does unstaking have a 7-day period before you can stake again?
Why does unstaking have a 7-day period before you can unstake? Okay, now this is generally called the unbundling period there. And in variant chains, this period is separate. It just allows for, well, to allow for any foul play to be caught on time, you know. And then, for example, I think the unstaking period on our chain is pretty easy, pretty small. If you compare it to what you see on the Polkadot relay chain, it's about 28 days, right? So from the point where you unstake, you'd have to wait 28 days before you actually have your tokens be able to be drawn there. However, for us, it's just 7 days. So I understand that it's a bit of why do you have 7 days there, but it's a very short time when you compare it to other chains there.
Yeah, sure. And it helps keep the network secure. So, you know, yeah. I think it's best for everyone overall. And the second question is, why do new stakers have a minimum stake of 100 AVT?
Why did new stakers have a minimum stake of 100 AVT? These are parameters that are required basically in the substrate code for this particular staking pallets, now as designed by Polkadot. But again, this is one of those things where if you look at our design compared to some other chains, we are providing more flexible and basically easier, reducing the barriers to entry into staking. If you compare 100 AVT to the 250 DOT required by Polkadot, it's not in that same gap there. But I would say it's basically because of the system configurations that are part of the parachain staking palette.
Cool, thanks, Manuel. That's all the questions that were sent in, but if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to send them in our Telegram or to info@aventus.io and we'll definitely answer them. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Emmanuel, for your time and an interesting update, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye, everyone.